things that we found back in 2005 when alternatives to abortion was first adopted, and Governor Blunt went and made a speech. He made it at what used to be the largest mid-Missouri CDC. He said your money's much better spent here than at Planned Parenthood. And they claimed to have a doctor on staff, and that doctor was a podiatrist. And I think my employee Stephanie could use one of those today. But I wouldn't send her to the CDC to see a podiatrist.
Well, I know, we're not always MCI on these issues, but I would put one with you. I don't know if, I know the center in Springfield is actually partnered with Planned Parenthood and some areas, informational areas and so forth, but next time you're in Springfield, I would love to invite you to visit their center, and also have a new, forget the name of it, but it's a new maternity home that guys, they're using the old monastery. It's a beautiful facility, so if you get the opportunity, I'd love to invite you to that.
Senator, I'll take you up on that. And one of the good places that I have heard about over the course of 5 years, working with this tax credit and policy stuff, is that Springfield does a good job.
Thank you. I'll pass it on.
Any other question? Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Any other questions, Senator Sater?
Did I hear you say that the survey was performed by the group that you're representing today?
Yes.
So it was not an independent group that did the survey? It was.
No, we used and trained our volunteers according to a manual that was drafted by about 50 pro-choice groups, and according to survey methods that are used by the federal government.
So
There's a toolkit for it. I would be happy to share it.
So for you to get me to believe in those percentages, it's very difficult for me to believe your information because it's already biased. Because your group was doing the survey. I would be much more apt to believe it if you had it.
Well,
I just want to let you know.
I appreciate that thought, but I have to account to the IRS for how funds are spent. I have to account to everybody that gives us money, and those include reputable foundations. They know of our survey methodologies. They get every bit of information that we have. And if you think that I would ever jeopardize the credibility of my group by exhibiting bias in the study, I just have to assure you of my integrity as a lawyer and as a leader of an organization, and as somebody who's accountable to a board of directors and a bunch of funders. I would never do that.
Any other questions? And please, feel free if you'd like to get us the survey we can distribute it to the committee. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to House Bill 1132?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Ryan Summerford, and I'm the statewide manager of government affairs for Planned Parenthood Advocates in Missouri. And I'm actually here to testify in opposition to House Bill 1132 for increasing tax credits to pregnancy resource centers. First, I'd like to acknowledge that there are good apples and there are bad apples. Unfortunately, the number of bad apples when it comes to pregnancy resource centers outnumber the good. Pregnancy resource centers are also good for maternity homes. There are pregnancy resource centers that do offer GED, assistance with child care, assistance with education, but a great deal of pregnancy resource centers who are receiving this tax credit, and a majority of them are actually present themselves as a medical facility. Many times they are located within walking distance across the street or next door to a family planning center. Many times these pregnancy resource centers falsely advertise and try to fool or coax patients who are coming into family planning centers for healthcare services into their pregnancy resource centers, which are based in religious doctrine, and also its main purpose is an anti-abortion agenda. I think that we should point out that these tax credits being given to religious-based organizations is not something that we should be condoning. With that being said, the increase of the current pregnancy resource centers doesn't prevent individuals from giving to those good apples who are doing what they say they're doing, who aren't trying to deceptively push a religious or an anti-abortion agenda on a woman who does not know better, who may be showing up because of a sign that says free pregnancy test, who won't be told that they will only help her if she accepts the Lord Jesus Christ into her life. And for those reasons, Planned Parenthood is against this increased tax credit. And for that, I would ask for any questions.
Thank you. Senator Griswold. Good afternoon. Nice to see you again as well. Do you feel that it is problematic with the tax credits that they, some of the centers exercise their right to express their opinion in religious or non-religious matters?
Sure. I don't think that there is a problem with that. I think that where the conflict comes up is when they promote themselves as a medical facility, when they promote themselves as a place where you can go and get an ultrasound and a pregnancy test, and somebody coming into what looks like a health center thinks that they're walking into a doctor's office. That is where that line is blurred. And I think that if it was apparent up front that a woman who was going to seek services was going to a church or religious organization in order to get those, there's nothing wrong with that. The choice movement isn't about a pro-abortion agenda. It's about giving women information to help them to decide for her what is best. And no matter what she chooses within her pregnancy, it's important that the information that she does receive is medically accurate and is meant to support her, and not necessarily try to manipulate or conceive your own political agenda.
Well, I think we can agree on some of that. Are you saying then that, well, let's say it is a medical office.
Sure.
Are you saying that religious doctors who bring faith into their medical office and share that with their patients as part of the therapy, medical issues or non-medical issues, do you feel that that's a line that's blurred related to that?
I think that the practice of medicine and the practice of doctor should be based on science, and someone else's religious beliefs shouldn't be forced upon me. I'm going to my doctor for medical advice, and I want to make sure that I understand that I'm not trying to. I like to say that the freedom of religion is a deep covenant of our country and our individual rights. But I think that we need to be careful when religious information is substituted for medical issues.
So you're saying that you don't want it forced? Is that what mentioned that it should be forced.
Yes.
Okay, I think we agree. But you don't have any problem with being shared.
No.
Okay, wonderful. You also mentioned the issue of it being a problem perhaps when we're dealing with tax policy. Do you feel that there's a problem with the tax credits going to organizations that share their beliefs in this manner since they're receiving tax credits?
Sure, I think that taxpayers' dollars going to religious groups that use lies and misinformation, we shouldn't be supporting that. So I'm not saying that tax credits should be going to religious organizations. I'm saying they shouldn't be going to religious organizations that use lies and misinformation.
Okay, but you have no problem with the tax credits going to an organization that expressly shares their faith?
I agree.
Okay, all right, wonderful, thank you.
Senator Machine.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good afternoon.
So just so I'm clear, you are against the PRC,
That's correct.
but you are not against maternity home tax credit.
That's correct.
In life, we have to weigh our good versus our bad, to determine, what we're going to do. And I think that when we look at this overall bill, we have to do the same. With the good outweigh the bad. Okay? And I truly believe that the good outweighs the bad with this particular piece of legislation. Because when you have individual women that are pregnant that need shelter, then that's provided. When you have women that have been abused by a man to no fault of her own, and her children being abused, and they find and seek shelter by way of this tax credit, that's a win. Not only that, when you have the opportunity to, when they come for help, then they can live comfortably. They get the meals that's needed, the 3 meals a day, quality furniture that the children can sleep on, and things of that sort. So I understand your argument, but in life, sometimes we have to begin to say to ourselves, is the good outweighing the bad, or the bad outweighing the good? And the good outweighs the bad with this piece of legislation. I think that's what happens too often. We become too extreme. I mean, extremism takes over our logic and our rationale, and we lose sight of it all. This is a really good bill for women in need. And I don't think that because of pro-life versus pro-choice, we should stop this bill from moving. Okay? And that's just my take.
Sure.
And I think that every time we look at things, we have to look at the good versus the bad, put it on the scale, and which one outweighs the next.
And I would disagree that I think that this bill, the bad, does outweigh the good. I'd like to point out that it doesn't prevent individuals who give to those good maternity homes, who provide shelter and homeless women the resources that they need to help carry that.
But it's an incentive. It's an incentive.
There's still, but they still have a $2 million tax credit. They still have the opportunity to give to those good maternity homes. With this bill, we are just stopping and preventing the bad ones.
No, what you would be stopping is more women being able to provide, have the services that's needed. That's what you're stopping, because we have more women in need of the maternity services now more than ever before. And that's why the 2.5 million number is being asked of. So that's what we will be hurting. We'll be hurting women that need the services now more than ever before, that are not receiving the service due to the fact that we're at the top limit.
But you're still hurting those women. And I'd like to, I'll leave my testimony behind, but I'd like to point out that I have testimony from Dr. Colleen McNicholas, who's a DO from St. Louis, who a lot of times with these pregnancy resource centers, when a woman comes in to receive a pregnancy test, there's no regulation of these pregnancy resource centers.
Well, that's not my argument. I mean, I don't care about any of that. I'm talking about the maternity health tax credit. I think that outweighs all of what you're saying, because we're able to help people. And what you're saying is that we don't want to help people because we think that they are pushing their own religious agenda on the backs of tax credits. I don't care if they're doing that.
It's
I
not.
care more so about being able to provide services and assistance for the indigent, for the poor, and for those that cannot help themselves.
And I point out that it's not just helping, it's actually hurting healthcare providers for women.
Okay.
I have a story of a woman who showed up to an ER because a pregnancy resource center didn't have a medical professional to read that ultrasound. They told her that she had a miscarriage and was no longer pregnant. What she had was a tubal pregnancy, which she then presented to the ER and lost the use of one fallopian tube and put her health and life at risk. And to put those pregnancy resource centers, to give them incentives to help put women's health care at risk, we're against, and that's very serious.
I mean, we can have cases where abortions have caused deaths. So I mean, we can go back and forth with all of that, okay? We can look at cases where abortions have impacted the quality of life for women, and we can look at the stories that you're telling. We can find all kinds of stories, right? However, what I'm saying is that the good outweigh the bad with this bill, and that's why I support the bill. By the way, I'm pro-life, but I am pro-choice too. I'm all over the place.
Any other questions for? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in opposition to 1132? Anyone wishing to testify for information purposes only for 1132? Okay, that'll close the hearing on 1132.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. It's really good to see you.
You know, I was going to ask for consent, but I guess that's out the way.
Yeah.
But as always, it's really good to see something.
Thanks. Senator Justice, is there a motion to go into executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we go into executive session.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in executive session. Senator Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I move to pass House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1501. This is Representative Ann Sayers' bill to change the law regarding the distressed area and the single tax credit, among other things.
So we'll say.
Okay, so there's a motion made and seconded. This is the economic development / tax credit reform bill we heard last week. There's no committee sub voted out and put in there. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, now call roll.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Dixon, Kraus, Lamping, Romine, Sater, Wasson, Justice, Kevin, Machine.
By your vote of 8-1, you voted to pass House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1501. We'll leave the board open for Senator Kraus. Senator Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now move to pass House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1426. This is Representative Beal's bill. It allows counties to create a voluntary registry of individuals with health-related ailments for emergency purposes.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This is the companion bill that I had for the voluntary registry. We heard last week. Now, Representative Beal, is there any discussion? Matt, hearing none, Matt, call roll.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Kraus, Lamping, Romine, Sater, Wasson, Justice, Kevin, Machine.
Aye.
By your vote of 9-0, you voted to pass House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1426. Yeah, why don't you, Senator Justice, would you like to make a motion to consent on that?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. Is there a second for that? There's been a motion made and seconded for consent. I think it was unanimous. The Senate, it was consent in the House. Any discussion? Matt, call roll.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Dixon, Kraus, Lamping, Romine, Sater, Wasson, Justice, Kevin, Machine.
By your vote of 9-0, you voted to pass consent 1426. Senator Justice.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for the adoption of Senate Committee Substitute for House Bill 1495. This is Representative Torpey's bill that requires the Missouri Technology Corporations to distribute money to specified early-stage business development corporations for grants to newly formed businesses that have the potential for sales or development of new technologies and have been endorsed by Senator.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, Senator Dixon, do you want to explain the substitute?
I would be happy to do that. Basically, I think everyone's got a copy, but It reduces, number one, it reduces the amount of nonprofits in the state of Springfield and Columbia must have received for being designated as an ESPC from 2 million to 500,000. And then also requires those to have raised the required initial funds in the 30 months prior to designation. We wanted to make sure that all funds ever raised didn't count toward the 2 million or the 500,000. Just so everybody starts out at the same spot. Number three, it requires the ESBC seeking to continue their designation to continue to raise funds, not just make it a one-time thing. Moves the date for the nonprofit that they must apply for designation from the 15th of October, which would be only, a short time after the enactment, to the 31st of December. And then it also limits the use of funds by the ESGGCs for administrative purposes to 25% of the total. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's the high mark. I'd be happy with it being lower. And then we also included a clawback provision for companies that receive funds agreed out of state within 2 years. So.
And MTC brought an idea to me, which relates to offering an amendment, already given your substitute, but I'd certainly like to talk to the sponsor about it and consider it the first level of our full amendment that would actually allow MTC to take an equity stake. So many of you may not be aware of the fact that MTC already does make angel-like investments. And when they do, they actually take an equity stake in the investment. And so this would be a very nominal equity stake. We hear a lot of discussion about, well, what if we find the next Google? Well, if we actually found the next Google under the program as it exists today, the state would not have an opportunity to recover any of these money. So I think it's a really good idea. It would be a very nominal, like 1% stake. Think about it. The companies themselves, as they come forward, most of the recipients of the business plans, there's 2 or 3 people, and so their valuation as a company might be relatively small. So hopefully, they talk to you about that, Senator?
Yes, and I totally agree with you. In fact, research is kind of looking at some of this is definitely a work in progress. We're looking at how to make that work and what trigger point, because I want to do it at such a time that incentivize or disincentivize growth. But whether, like if we were to say, on sale or go to public, we get a certain percentage if they, like you said, if you have an next Google. I think that's a great idea. So,
well, good.
put some more stuff together. I want to put something like
Keep working on it. I think this bill has a really good opportunity to be done. Any other discussion? Okay, then all those in favor of adopting the Senate Committee substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. They do have you adopt the sub. Senator Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now move to pass the Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 1495.
Any further motion from Senator Justice? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call.
Senator Schmidt,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Kraus, Lampion, Romine, Sager, Watson, Justice, Kevin, Machine.
Okay, by vote 9-0, we'll keep the board open for Senator Kraus and vote to pass Senate Committee substitute for House Bill 1495. We have 2 bills left. House Committee substitute for, hearing no further business before is there a motion to move out of executive session?
I move that we get out.
Motion been made, second, all in favor, aye. All opposed, okay, we're out of executive session. We'll open the hearing on House Committee substitute for House Bill 1459, Representative Lauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be over here to present to you House Bill 1459. This is a companion bill to Senator Romine's bill, Senate Bill 729, and it is an innovation campus funding mechanism through donations for STEM education. And I know you've heard this bill before, and I will not belabor that point, but I did want to just point out that it did pass through the House as consent, and with 134 votes, and it's the same if we could possibly do this committee as well. And also, if it pleases the chair, and you may have already received this, I have a list. There are 9 innovation campuses across the state, and I don't know if you have copies of this or not, but I do have copies of those listings. If you would like to.
I think we have it, but feel free to, we'll get those distributed. Any questions for Representative Love? Okay, first witness in support.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brian Milner, Legislative Director for the Department of Economic Development. This committee very wisely voted the Senate companion out of consent a few weeks back, and this bill is identical. We appreciate your support on this as well.
Any questions for the witness?
Thank you.
Further witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Phil Wright, representing the University of Central Missouri. We've been the most active in developing the Innovation Campus program and working in conjunction with Metropolitan Community College and various large businesses in the Kansas City area and the Summit School District. We are very much in support of this and appreciate your support.
Any questions? Mr. Wright. Thank you. Further witnesses.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jim Farrell, representing the Center for Emerging Technologies, Cortex Districts, in support.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in support? Witnesses in opposition. Witnesses for informational purposes only. Okay, that'll close the hearing on 1459. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
I am.
That will open the hearing on House Committee Substitute for House Bill 1729. Representative Lott.
Okay, thank you. I am pinch hitting for Representative Caleb Jones, and I serve on the Economic Development Committee, so I'm somewhat familiar with this bill, House Bill 1729, which allows for a trade desk to be put in Israel that is subject to appropriations. Senator Parsons has carried this companion bill, Senate Bill 812, which has not been on through committee, perfected on the Senate floor. And so with that, I would entertain any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, David Wynn here on behalf of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. I want to thank the sponsors for putting this legislation forward. Testify in support.
Shalom. Any questions? No questions. Further witnesses in support.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Elise Costa. I'm a registered lobbyist on behalf of Concerned Women for America, Missouri. We'd just like to go off the record in support of this legislation.
Thanks for coming. Any questions? Thank you. Further witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Witnesses for informational purposes only. Okay, that'll close the hearing on 1729.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Hearing no further business, for the committee, is there a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor? Aye.